The fluorescent lights of the diner buzzed overhead like angry wasps, each flicker sending a fresh wave of nausea through my already churning stomach. I pressed my palm against the cool stainless steel counter, trying to ground myself as another wave of dizziness threatened to pull me under. 3 hours into my shift, and I'd already dropped a plate, spilled coffee on a customer's lap, and nearly walked straight into the kitchen door. "Ivy, you look like death," Marcus said, my manager's voice cutting through the fog in my head. He stood with his arms crossed, his usual patience wearing thin. "Maybe you should go home early." "I'm fine," I lied, forcing my spine straight despite the exhaustion that had become my constant companion. "Just need more coffee." The irony wasn't lost on me. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have been caught dead in a place like this. A greasy spoon diner on the Lower East Side that smelled perpetually of burnt bacon and desperation. 6 months ago, I'd been on billboards in Times Square, my face plastered across fashion magazines, walking runways during Fashion Week. 6 months ago, I'd been Ivy Mitchell, the next big thing in modeling. Now I was just Ivy, the pregnant girl nobody wanted. The morning sickness was supposed to get better after the first trimester. That's what all the books said, what the free clinic doctor had told me during my last visit. But here I was at 5 months, still fighting the urge to vomit every time I caught a whiff of anything stronger than tap water. The baby, my daughter, according to the ultrasound I'd gotten at the clinic, seemed determined to make her presence known in the most uncomfortable ways possible. I touched my stomach through the oversized uniform shirt I'd specifically chosen to hide the growing bump. She was my secret, my burden, my reason for being here instead of in Milan or Paris or anywhere else my career should have taken me. "Table 7 needs their check," Marcus called, already turning back to the kitchen. And the couple at 9 just sat down. I grabbed my notepad and pen, plastering on the smile I'd perfected over months of this new reality. Customer service smile number 3. Friendly, but not too friendly. Approachable, but professional. I'd learned to wear different masks depending on the situation. It was amazing how many skills from modeling translated to waitressing. The fake smile, the ability to stand for hours in uncomfortable shoes, the talent for making people feel important even when you couldn't care less. Table 9 was occupied by a couple who looked like they'd wandered in from a different universe. He wore a suit that probably cost more than 3 months of my rent, and she had that unmistakable glow of someone who'd never had to worry about where her next meal was coming from. They were laughing about something, their heads bent close together, completely absorbed in their own little bubble of happiness. I felt the familiar twist of envy and pushed it down. That could have been me. Should have been me. If I hadn't been so stupid, so reckless, so completely naive. "Good evening, welcome to Marcus's diner," I said, my voice automatically shifting into the pleasant, slightly chipper tone that got the best tips. "Can I start you off with something to drink?" The woman barely glanced at me. "Water with lemon, no ice." Of course. Women like her always had specific requests, little ways of asserting their importance. "And for you, sir?" I asked, turning to the man. "Coffee, black," he said, finally looking up from his menu. Our eyes met for just a second, but it was enough. I saw the flicker of recognition in his gaze, the way his expression shifted from casual interest to something sharper. He knew. Somehow, he knew who I was, or who I used to be. "Coming right up," I managed, my professional smile never wavering as I turned away. This happened sometimes. People recognized me from magazines or billboards, though it was getting rarer as my career faded into memory. Most of the time they were confused, unable to reconcile the glamorous model they'd seen in glossy photographs with the tired waitress serving them coffee. Sometimes they asked for autographs or photos, which was its own special kind of humiliation. Mostly they just stared, trying to figure out why I looked familiar. I brought their drinks, took their orders, overpriced salad for her, burger for him, and retreated to the relative safety of the kitchen. "You good?" Rosie asked, my fellow waitress and the closest thing I had to a friend these days. She was in her 50s, had been doing this job for decades, and possessed an almost supernatural ability to read people. "Just tired," I said, which was true. I was always tired now, bone-deep exhaustion that no amount of sleep could fix. "You need to take better care of yourself, honey." Rosie's eyes dropped to my stomach with the knowing look of a woman who'd been through her own share of pregnancies. "That baby needs you healthy." "I'm trying," I whispered, fighting back the tears that seemed to come so easily these days. "I'm doing everything I can." And I was. After my shift here ended at midnight, I'd go home to my tiny studio apartment. A 6th-floor walk-up in a building where the heat barely worked, and the neighbors fought so loudly I could hear every word through the paper-thin walls. I'd sleep for maybe 4 hours before my alarm went off at 5 a.m. for my cleaning job at an office building downtown. 3 days a week, I scrubbed toilets and emptied trash cans until 9 a.m., then came back here for the lunch shift. The money still wasn't enough. It was never enough. My rent was overdue again, my electricity had been shut off twice, and I was still paying off medical bills from my first emergency room visit when the morning sickness had gotten so bad I'd become dehydrated. The free clinic was helpful, but they couldn't provide everything. Prenatal vitamins cost money. Maternity clothes cost money. The baby would need things: diapers, clothes, a crib, and I had no idea how I was going to afford any of it. But I couldn't think about that now. Couldn't let myself spiral into the panic that threatened to overwhelm me every time I tried to plan for the future. Right now, I just had to get through this shift. One foot in front of the other, one order at a time. One more smile for one more customer who didn't know and didn't care that I was drowning. The dinner rush hit hard, a wave of humanity demanding food and attention. I moved through it on autopilot, my body performing tasks my mind was too exhausted to fully process. Refill water glasses, clear plates, smile, take orders, smile, deliver food, smile. The mask never slipped, even as my feet throbbed in the cheap shoes I'd bought at a discount store, even as my back ached from the extra weight I was carrying, even as the baby kicked insistently against my ribs like she was trying to remind me she was there, as if I could forget. It was just after 8 p.m. when the dizziness got worse. I was carrying a tray loaded with plates when the edges of my vision started to blur. The fluorescent lights seemed to pulse, growing brighter and dimmer in rhythm with my heartbeat. The sound of the diner, the clatter of dishes, the hum of conversation, the sizzle of the grill, all faded to a distant buzz. I made it to table 12 and somehow managed to set down the plates without dropping them. The customers thanked me, but their voices sounded like they were coming from underwater. I smiled, always smile, and turned to walk back to the kitchen. That's when the floor tilted. My hand shot out, gripping the back of a chair to steady myself. The room spun, a kaleidoscope of harsh lights and concerned faces. Someone was calling my name, but I couldn't focus on the voice. Couldn't focus on anything except the overwhelming need to sit down, to close my eyes, to make the world stop moving. "Ivy!" Rosie's voice cut through the fog. I felt her hand on my arm, solid and real. "Honey, you need to sit down." "I'm fine," I tried to say, but the words came out slurred. "Like hell you are. Marcus, get over here." What happened next came in fragments. Being guided to a booth, sitting down with my head between my knees, someone pressing a glass of water into my hands. Marcus's voice, tight with worry, saying something about calling an ambulance. "No," I managed, panic cutting through the fog. "No ambulance. Can't afford it. Ivy, you passed out." "I'll be fine. Just need a minute." But I wasn't fine. Even as I said the words, I could feel something was wrong. Not just the dizziness or the nausea, but something deeper. a cramping sensation low in my abdomen that made my breath catch. The baby had stopped kicking. Fear, sharp and cold, cut through everything else. "Hospital," I whispered. "Need to go to the hospital." The next hour was a blur of movement and sound. Rosie calling a cab because I still refused the ambulance. The ride through city streets that seemed to stretch endlessly. The emergency room with its harsh lights and antiseptic smell. Forms to fill out. Questions I barely heard. The mounting terror that something was wrong with my baby, that I was losing her, that this one thing, this one person I'd managed to hold on to was being taken away too. They put me in a bed behind a curtain and attached monitors to my stomach. The sound of the baby's heartbeat filled the small space, steady and strong, and I nearly sobbed with relief. "Everything looks good," the nurse said, her voice kind. "Baby's heart rate is perfect, but you're dehydrated and your blood pressure is low. When's the last time you ate?" I tried to remember. Lunch? No, I'd skipped lunch because we'd been busy. Breakfast had been a granola bar I'd found in my purse. Dinner the night before? I honestly couldn't remember. "I've been working a lot," I said weakly. "You need to take better care of yourself," she chided gently, echoing Rosie's words. "For your baby's sake, if not your own. How far along are you?" 5 months. "And you're still working this much?" She shook her head. "Do you have support? Family? The baby's father?" "No," I said, the word heavy with all its implications. "No family. My parents had made their position clear when I'd told them about the pregnancy. No friends. Most had drifted away when my career imploded. And the baby's father? Isaac Mancini. Even thinking his name sent a complex tangle of emotions through me. Rage, hurt, longing. The memory of one perfect night followed by 6 months of silence. "I'm alone," I said, and it was the truest thing I'd said all day. The nurse's expression softened with pity, which somehow made everything worse. "The doctor will be in soon to examine you. Try to rest." Rest, as if I knew how to do that anymore. As if my mind would let me stop cataloging all the ways my life had fallen apart. All the mistakes I'd made. All the impossibilities of the situation I found myself in. I closed my eyes and let myself remember, just for a moment, what it had felt like to be someone else. To be Ivy Mitchell, model. To walk into rooms and have people know my name. To see my face on magazine covers and feel like I mattered. To have a future that stretched bright and endless before me. That girl was gone now, disappeared the moment those 2 lines appeared on a pregnancy test in the bathroom of my agent's office. And in her place was this, a tired woman in a hospital gown, alone and afraid, trying to figure out how to survive one more day. The curtain moved, and I opened my eyes expecting the doctor. Instead, I found myself looking at a man I didn't recognize. He was around 40, with kind eyes and an expensive watch that probably cost more than everything I owned. He wore scrubs, but something about the way he carried himself suggested he was more than just another emergency room doctor. "Ms. Mitchell?" he asked, glancing at my chart. "I'm Dr. Adrian Colombo. I'll be overseeing your care tonight." Something about his accent caught my attention. Italian, like Isaac's had been. The similarity sent an unexpected ache through my chest. "Thank you," I managed. He moved to check the monitors, his movements efficient and professional. But then he paused, his eyes narrowing slightly as he looked at me more carefully. "Have we met before?" he asked. "I don't think so." "You look very familiar." He tilted his head, studying me. "Not from the hospital, but somewhere else." I stayed silent, hoping he'd drop it. The last thing I needed was another person remembering me from my brief moment of fame. But Dr. Colombo's expression shifted, recognition dawning in his eyes. Not the recognition of a fan or someone who'd seen my face in magazines. Something else. Something that made my blood run cold. "Madonna Santa," he breathed, switching to Italian. Then, in English, "You're her. You're the woman from the photograph." My heart stuttered. What photograph? But he was already reaching for his phone, pulling up something on the screen. When he turned it toward me, I saw my own face staring back. Not a professional shot, but a candid photo taken at a bar. I was laughing, my head thrown back, joy radiating from every line of my body. I remembered that night. Remembered the man who'd been making me laugh. "Where did you get that?" I whispered. "My friend," Dr. Colombo said slowly. "He's been carrying this photo around for months, showing it to anyone who might recognize you. He's been looking for you, trying to find you." He paused, his expression growing serious. "And you're pregnant with his child, aren't you?" I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Because I knew, even before Dr. Colombo said the name, I knew exactly who he was talking about. "Isaac," the doctor said quietly. "Isaac Mancini. You know him. And unless I'm very wrong, that baby you're carrying is his." The world tilted again, but this time it had nothing to do with dehydration or low blood pressure. This time it was pure panic, as I realized that the man I'd been running from, the man who'd haunted my dreams for 6 months, was about to find out about our daughter, and there was nowhere left to run. "No," I said, the word escaping before I could stop it. "Please don't call him." Dr. Colombo's expression shifted from surprise to concern. "Ms. Mitchell." "You don't understand," I interrupted, panic making my voice shake. "I can't see him. I can't. He left. He disappeared without a word. And I've been trying to survive on my own. And if he finds out about the baby..." "If he finds out?" Dr. Colombo's eyebrows rose. "You haven't told him?" How could I explain? How could I make him understand that Isaac Mancini wasn't just some man who'd gotten me pregnant and walked away? That everything I'd heard about him in the months since our night together had painted a picture of someone I didn't want anywhere near my daughter? "He doesn't know," I admitted quietly. "And I'd like to keep it that way." Dr. Colombo was silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he slipped his phone back into his pocket and moved closer to my bed. "Ms. Mitchell, I've known Isaac Mancini for 15 years. We grew up in the same neighborhood in Brooklyn. I went to medical school while he took over his father's business. We've remained friends despite our very different paths." He paused. "And I can tell you with absolute certainty that if he knew you were pregnant with his child, if he knew you'd been struggling alone all these months, he would be devastated." "You don't know what he'd do," I said. "Actually, I do. Because I've watched him search for you. I've seen the way he carries that photograph, the way he asks about you, the guilt in his eyes when he talks about letting you slip away." Dr. Colombo's voice was gentle but firm. "Whatever you think about Isaac, whatever you've heard about his business, I can promise you this: he takes care of what's his. And whether you want to admit it or not, you and that baby are his." The possessive language sent a chill through me. "I'm not anyone's property." "That's not what I meant," he sighed. "Look, I'm not going to call him right now if you truly don't want me to. But Ms. Mitchell, you collapsed at work from exhaustion and dehydration. You're 5 months pregnant and clearly not taking proper care of yourself. You need help." "I'm managing," I said, even though we both knew it was a lie. "Are you?" His eyes held mine. "When's the last time you had a proper meal? When's the last time you slept more than 4 hours? When's the last time you weren't terrified about how you'd pay your bills?" Tears burned behind my eyes. I hated that he could see through me so easily, hated that my situation was so obvious. "I'll be fine," I whispered. "You'll be dead," he said bluntly. Or you'll lose the baby. Probably both. Is that what you want? Of course not. Then let me help you. Let Isaac help you. He pulled out a business card and set it on the bedside table. That's my personal number. When you're ready to stop running, call me. I'll arrange everything. What if I'm never ready? Dr. Colombo's smile was sad. Then I'll make a medical decision about what's best for my patient and her unborn child. I took an oath to do no harm, Ms. Mitchell. And letting you walk out of here to continue killing yourself slowly? That would be harm. Before I could respond, a nurse entered with a bag of IV fluids. Dr. Colombo excused himself, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts and the steady beep of the fetal monitor. He was going to tell Isaac. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, and once Isaac knew. I tried to imagine what would happen. Would he be angry that I'd kept the pregnancy from him? Would he demand custody? Would he try to control my life the way I'd heard he controlled everything else in his world? Because that's what I'd learned in the months since our night together. Isaac Mancini wasn't just wealthy. He was dangerous. His family's import business was a front for something much darker. I'd overheard conversations at casting calls, read between the lines of gossip column mentions, pieced together enough to understand that the man I'd spent one perfect night with was someone I should fear. And yet, lying in that hospital bed with his daughter moving inside me, all I could remember was his laugh, the way his dark eyes had lit up when I'd made a joke, the gentleness of his touch, the way he'd made me feel seen in a way I'd never experienced before. That man, and the rumors I'd heard since, didn't match. But which version was real? The nurse finished setting up my IV and left. I closed my eyes, exhaustion pulling at me despite my anxiety. The fluids flowing into my veins already made me feel slightly more human, and the knowledge that the baby was safe let some of the tension drain from my body. I must have dozed off, because the next thing I knew, someone was calling my name. Ms. Mitchell? Ivy? I opened my eyes to find Dr. Colombo had returned, but he wasn't alone. A woman stood beside him, late 50s, expensively dressed, with sharp eyes that assessed me in seconds. This is Dr. Helena Russo, Dr. Colombo introduced. She's one of the best OBGYNs in the city. I asked her to consult on your case. Hello, Ivy, Dr. Russo said, her voice warm despite her intimidating appearance. May I examine you? I nodded, too tired to question why a top obstetrician would be called in for someone like me. The examination was thorough but gentle. Dr. Russo asked questions about my medical history, my prenatal care, or lack thereof, my work schedule, my living situation. With each answer, I saw her expression grow more concerned. You're severely anemic, she said finally. Your blood pressure is too low. You're underweight for this stage of pregnancy, and you're showing signs of extreme stress. If you continue like this, you risk preterm labor, placental complications, or worse. I'm doing the best I can, I said, hating how defensive I sounded. I'm sure you are. Dr. Russo's expression softened. But your best isn't enough right now. You need rest, proper nutrition, and significantly less physical stress. How many hours a week are you working? I calculated quickly. About 70. 70? Her eyes widened. And you're on your feet for most of that. I'm a waitress and a cleaning lady. It comes with the territory. Not anymore, it doesn't. Dr. Russo's voice was firm. I'm writing you a medical leave note effective immediately. No work for at least 2 weeks, possibly longer depending on your recovery. Panic seized me. I can't afford to not work. My rent is already late. I have bills. Then you'll have to find another solution, she interrupted. Because if you continue working at this pace, you won't have to worry about rent. You'll be worried about whether your daughter survives. The blunt statement hit me like a physical blow. I pressed my hand to my stomach, feeling my daughter's reassuring movement. What am I supposed to do? I whispered. Dr. Russo and Dr. Colombo exchanged a look that made my stomach drop. They'd planned this, I realized. This whole consultation was orchestrated. "There's someone who wants to help you," Dr. Colombo said carefully. "Someone who's been looking for you. Someone who has every right to know about his child. You told him." Accusation sharpened my voice. "You promised you wouldn't call him." "I didn't," Dr. Colombo said. "But I texted him a photo of your chart, with your name redacted, showing a 5-month pregnancy with due date that matches the timeline of when you two met. I asked if he wanted to know more." Horror washed over me. "What did he say?" "He's in the waiting room." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Isaac was here, in this hospital, waiting. "I can't," I said, trying to sit up. "I need to leave." "You're still hooked to an IV," Dr. Russo pointed out. "And even if you weren't, where would you go? Back to your apartment where you can barely afford electricity? Back to jobs that are literally killing you and your baby? That's not fair." "None of this is fair," Dr. Colombo interrupted. "It's not fair that you've been struggling alone. It's not fair that Isaac didn't know where to find you after that night. It's not fair that you're in this position. But we can't change what's already happened. We can only deal with what happens next." "And what happens next is you meet with Isaac," Dr. Russo added. "You tell him about his daughter, and you let him help you." "What if I don't want his help?" "Then you're not just being stubborn," Dr. Russo said bluntly. "You're being selfish. Because this isn't just about you anymore, Ivy. It's about that little girl who deserves a fighting chance at life. And right now, you're not giving her one." The truth of her words cut deep. I'd been so focused on surviving, on maintaining some shred of independence, that I hadn't let myself admit how badly I was failing, how close I'd come to losing everything. "I'm scared," I admitted, my voice breaking. "I'm scared of him, of what he'll do, of what he'll want." "Then be scared," Dr. Colombo said. "But be scared while getting the help you need. Be scared while eating proper meals and sleeping in a safe place. Be scared while giving your daughter the best chance possible." He was right. They were both right. But that didn't make it any easier to face what came next. "Can I have a few minutes?" I asked, "to prepare myself?" "Of course." Dr. Russo patted my hand. "We'll send him in when you're ready." They left, and I was alone again with my thoughts and my fear and my daughter. I pressed both hands to my stomach, feeling her move beneath my palms. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry I let things get this bad. I'm sorry I've been too proud to ask for help. I'm sorry your father is about to walk through that door and change everything." She kicked in response, a strong flutter that felt almost like reassurance. I took a deep breath, then another, fixed my hair as best I could, wished I was wearing literally anything other than a hospital gown, tried to prepare myself for seeing Isaac Mancini again after 6 months of trying to forget him. But nothing could have prepared me for the moment the door opened and he walked in. He looked exactly as I remembered and completely different. Same dark hair, same strong jaw, same intense eyes that had haunted my dreams. But there was something harder about him now, something more dangerous lurking beneath the expensive suit and polished exterior. His eyes found mine, and I watched emotions flicker across his face too quickly to catalog. Shock, relief, anger, hurt. And underneath it all, something that looked almost like hope. "Ivy," he said, my name a prayer and an accusation all at once. And just like that, the walls I'd built so carefully over 6 months began to crumble. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. The beeping of the fetal monitor seemed impossibly loud in the silence, a constant reminder of the secret I'd kept from him. "You've been looking for me," I said finally, because someone had to speak first. "For 6 months." His voice was controlled, but I heard the anger beneath it. I've had people searching every corner of this city. I thought something had happened to you, that you were hurt or worse. I was fine. Were you? He moved closer and I fought the urge to shrink back against the pillows. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been anything but fine. His eyes traveled over me, taking in the hospital gown, the IV in my arm, the exhaustion I couldn't hide. Then his gaze dropped to my stomach, to the small bump barely visible beneath the thin blanket. How long have you known? He asked quietly. About 2 weeks after our night together. Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or betrayal. And you didn't think to tell me? I didn't know how to find you, I said, which was partially true. You left that morning before I woke up. No number, no note, nothing. Just gone. I left because I had an emergency, he said, his jaw tightening. My cousin had been in an accident. I wrote a note with my number, left it on the nightstand with money for breakfast. When I came back later that afternoon, you were gone. The hotel said you'd checked out hours earlier. The words hit me like a physical blow. There was no note. Housekeeping must have cleaned the room before you woke up. I tried calling the number you'd given me, but it was disconnected. I went back to the bar where we met, but no one knew you. I hired investigators, but Ivy Mitchell is a common enough name that it took months to sort through the possibilities. He stopped in front of my bed. Why didn't you try harder to find me? Why not go to my family's restaurant? Ask around? Because I did ask around, I said, my own anger rising. I asked the bartender about you, about Isaac Mancini. And you know what he told me? He told me to stay far away from you, that you were dangerous, that women who got involved with your family had a habit of disappearing or worse. Isaac's expression went cold. And you believed him? Why wouldn't I? I didn't know you, Isaac. We had one night together. One perfect, beautiful night. And then you were gone. When I found out I was pregnant, I did try to find you. But everything I heard made me terrified of what would happen if I did. So you decided to struggle alone instead. His voice was dangerously soft. To work yourself into the ground? To risk our daughter's life because you were too afraid to face me? Don't you dare judge me, I snapped, tears burning my eyes. You have no idea what the last 6 months have been like. I lost everything when I got pregnant. My agency dropped me the second they found out. Every modeling contract I had was canceled. The career I'd spent years building disappeared overnight because I was going to have a baby. And whose fault is that? Ours, I said. Both of ours. We were reckless that night. We got caught up in the moment and we didn't think about consequences. His jaw worked, but he didn't deny it. That night had been spontaneous, passionate, completely irresponsible. We'd met at a bar where I'd gone to celebrate booking a major campaign. He'd sent over a drink. We'd talked for hours. The chemistry between us had been instant and overwhelming. I'd never done anything like that before. Gone home with a man I'd just met. But Isaac had made me feel alive in a way I'd never experienced. Made me feel like Ivy, the person, rather than Ivy the model. When he'd kissed me outside the bar, the world had fallen away. When he'd taken me to his hotel room, I'd gone willingly, eagerly, certain that this was exactly where I was meant to be. The memory of that night still had the power to make my breath catch. The way he'd touched me, like I was precious and fragile and desperately wanted all at once. The way he'd whispered my name like a prayer. The way we'd fit together, perfectly, inevitably. I'd fallen asleep in his arms, feeling safer and more cherished than I ever had in my life, and I'd woken up alone. I tried to find you, Isaac said quietly, pulling me back to the present. Every day for 6 months I tried. I couldn't stop thinking about you. Couldn't forget the way you laughed or the things we talked about or how it felt to hold you. Adrian kept telling me to let it go, that you'd clearly wanted to disappear. But I couldn't accept that. Why? The question escaped before I could stop it. It was just one night. No, he said firmly. It wasn't. You felt it too, Ivy. That connection. That certainty that we'd found something rare. I had felt it. That was what made everything so much harder. It doesn't matter what I felt, I said. You're still who you are, and I won't bring my daughter into that world. Our daughter, he corrected. And what world exactly do you think you're protecting her from? One where violence solves problems, where people disappear, where she'll be safe, he interrupted. Where she'll be protected, where she'll have everything she needs. His voice softened. I won't lie to you about my business, Ivy. My family operates in gray areas. We do what we have to do to survive and thrive in a world that wasn't built for people like us. But I've never hurt an innocent person. Never targeted someone who didn't deserve what they got. And I would die before I let any harm come to you or our child. That's what I'm afraid of, I whispered. That you'll die, that she'll grow up without a father, that I'll spend every day terrified that something will happen to you. Isaac reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, his hand covered mine where it rested on my stomach. The touch sent electricity through me, the same spark I'd felt that first night. I can't promise nothing will ever happen to me, he said. But I can promise that if something does, you and our daughter will be taken care of for the rest of your lives. You'll never struggle, never worry, never have to work 3 jobs just to survive. I don't want your money, I said, even though we both knew it was a lie. I desperately needed money, needed help, needed everything he was offering. Then what do you want? The question hung between us. What did I want? To go back in time and make different choices? To have never met him? To have never gotten pregnant? No. Despite everything, I couldn't wish away my daughter. She was the one good thing to come from this disaster. I want to raise my daughter in peace, I said finally. I want her to have a normal life. That's not possible anymore, Isaac interrupted. The moment Adrian sent me that message, the moment I walked through that door and saw you pregnant with my child, everything changed. You can't go back to your life before, Ivy. It's not safe. What are you talking about? I have enemies, he said bluntly. People who would love nothing more than to hurt me by hurting what's mine. And whether you like it or not, you and our daughter are mine now. The second word gets out that I have a child, you both become targets. The casual possessiveness of his language sent a chill through me. I'm not yours. You are, he said with absolute certainty. You became mine that night 6 months ago, and now we have a daughter together, which makes you family. In my world, family is everything. Family is protected at all costs. So what are you saying? That I'm a prisoner now? I'm saying you're under my protection. There's a difference. He pulled his hand back, reaching into his jacket pocket. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to be discharged from this hospital in the morning. Dr. Russo has already arranged everything, and you're going to come home with me. No. It's not a negotiation, he continued as if I hadn't spoken. You'll live in my apartment where you'll be safe. You'll have access to the best medical care money can buy. You'll eat proper meals and get proper rest. And in 4 months, when our daughter is born, you'll do so in the best hospital with the best doctors, not some free clinic. And if I refuse? His expression hardened. Then I'll have Dr. Russo declare you medically unfit to care for yourself. I'll petition for emergency custody on the grounds that you're endangering our unborn child through negligence. And I'll win, Ivy, because I have the best lawyers in the city, and you have nothing. The threat hit me like ice water. You wouldn't. I would do anything, to protect my child, even from her own mother's stubbornness. We stared at each other, locked in a battle of wills, but we both knew I'd already lost. He held all the cards, all the power, all the resources. How do I know I can trust you? I asked, hating the defeat in my voice. You don't, he admitted, but you don't have a choice. So you'll come with me, and you'll let me take care of you. And eventually you'll understand that everything I'm doing is for our daughter's sake. Our daughter. Not his daughter or my daughter, but ours. The word should have felt like a claim, like ownership. Instead, it felt almost like a promise. What about my apartment? I asked. My things? I'll have everything moved. You'll never have to go back there. My jobs. Consider yourself retired from waitressing and cleaning. Your only job now is taking care of yourself and our baby. It should have felt like losing everything. Instead, exhausted and scared and desperate, it felt almost like relief. Okay, I whispered. I'll come with you. For now. For the baby. That's all I'm asking, Isaac said. But something in his eyes told me it was just the beginning. The penthouse was nothing like I'd imagined. I'd been bracing myself for something ostentatious. Gold fixtures and marble everywhere. The kind of wealth that screamed new money and poor taste. Instead, Isaac's home was understated elegance. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Hardwood floors in warm honey tones. Furniture that looked comfortable rather than showy. Original artwork on the walls that I suspected was worth more than most people made in a lifetime. Your room is this way, Isaac said, leading me down a hallway. His hand hovered at the small of my back, not quite touching, but close enough that I felt the heat of him. He opened a door to reveal a bedroom that was larger than my entire studio apartment had been. A king-sized bed dominated the space, dressed in soft gray linens. There was a sitting area by the windows, a desk, and a door that presumably led to a bathroom. This is too much, I said. This is the guest room, Isaac replied. The master suite is at the other end of the hall. You'll have privacy. Privacy. As if I could forget for a moment that I was living in his space, under his control, dependent on his generosity. There are clothes in the closet, he continued. I had my assistant purchase maternity wear in various sizes. Whatever doesn't fit, we'll have tailored or replaced. Dr. Russo will be here tomorrow morning for a follow-up examination. In the meantime, you should rest. He moved to leave, and panic fluttered in my chest. I didn't want to be alone with my thoughts, with the reality of what I'd agreed to. Isaac, I called. He paused in the doorway, looking back. Why are you doing this? I asked. Really? Is it just about the baby? Something shifted in his expression. For a moment, the controlled mask slipped, and I saw beneath it to the man I'd met that night 6 months ago. No, he said quietly. It's not just about the baby. I told you. I've been looking for you. I thought about you every day. Wondered where you were, if you were safe, if you'd found someone else. When Adrian sent me that message, when I realized you were pregnant. He stopped, his jaw working. You're mine, Ivy. You were mine from that first night. The baby just makes it official. The possessiveness should have frightened me. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in my stomach, a traitorous response to words that should have made me run. I'm not a possession, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. Aren't you? He took a step back into the room. Be honest with yourself, Ivy. That night, when we were together, you felt it. The way we fit. The certainty. You're mine just as much as I'm yours. Fighting it doesn't change the truth. I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong. But the words wouldn't come because he wasn't wrong. That night had felt like recognition, like finding something I'd been searching for without knowing I was searching. "Get some rest," he said, his voice gentler. "We'll talk more in the morning." This time when he left, I didn't call him back. The bathroom was a revelation. A deep soaking tub, a shower with multiple heads, heated floors, and a counter stocked with expensive toiletries. I ran a bath, sinking into water that was actually hot. A luxury I hadn't experienced in months since my apartment's water heater had been broken. As I soaked, letting the heat ease the constant ache in my back, I tried to process everything that had happened. 24 hours ago, I'd been in the diner, struggling through another shift. Now I was in a penthouse bathroom that was bigger than my entire former apartment, preparing to live with a man I barely knew who happened to be the father of my child. My daughter kicked, a strong flutter that made me smile despite everything. "I know," I murmured, my hand finding my stomach. "This is crazy. But maybe it's the good kind of crazy. Maybe we'll be okay here." I wanted to believe it. Desperately wanted to believe that Isaac's promises of safety and care were real. That this wasn't some elaborate form of control. After the bath, I found pajamas in the closet. Soft cotton that actually fit my changing body. The bed was impossibly comfortable, the sheets crisp and clean. I should have had trouble sleeping in this strange place, but exhaustion pulled me under almost immediately. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to cover and the smell of coffee. For a disoriented moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then memory returned. The hospital. Isaac. The penthouse. A soft knock at the door made me sit up. "Come in," I called. Isaac entered carrying a tray laden with breakfast. He'd changed from yesterday's suit into dark jeans and a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up, revealing strong forearms. His hair was slightly damp, suggesting he'd recently showered. "You didn't have to bring me breakfast," I said. "Dr. Russo was very specific about your nutritional needs." He set the tray on the bedside table. "There's protein, complex carbohydrates, fresh fruit, and prenatal vitamins. Also decaf coffee, since I remember you liked it in the morning." The fact that he remembered how I took my coffee from one morning 6 months ago did something strange to my chest. "Thank you," I said quietly. He nodded, moving to the windows and opening the curtains fully. The view was breathtaking. Central Park spread out below, the city beyond it. "I have some business to attend to this morning," he said, "but I'll be back before Dr. Russo arrives at 11. Marco will be outside if you need anything." "Marco?" "My head of security. He'll be stationed outside the apartment whenever I'm not here." "I'm not a prisoner," I said, the words automatic. "No," Isaac agreed. "You're protected. There's a difference." After he left, I ate the breakfast, which was delicious, and explored my new surroundings. The closet was indeed full of maternity clothes, everything from casual wear to elegant dresses, all expensive, all in styles I would have chosen for myself. Someone had done their homework. I was examining a particularly beautiful sweater when my phone buzzed. I'd almost forgotten I had it, having kept it off most of the time to conserve battery and avoid collection calls. The message was from a number I didn't recognize. "Heard you landed on your feet. Good for you. Hope you know what you're getting into. Sienna, my former agent. The woman who'd dropped me the second she found out I was pregnant." I stared at the message, trying to understand how she even knew where I was. Then I remembered the couple at the diner last night, the man who'd recognized me. Word traveled fast in certain circles. Before I could respond, another message came through. "Be careful. Isaac Mancini isn't what he seems. Ask him about his ex-wife." Ice ran through my veins. Ex-wife. Isaac had been married before. I paced the room, phone clutched in my hand, debating what to do with this information. Should I confront Isaac? Ignore Sienna's warning? Try to find out more on my own? The decision was made for me when the apartment door opened and voices filtered down the hallway. Isaac was back, and he wasn't alone. "Don't care what the Castellanos think," Isaac was saying, his voice hard. "They made their move, and they failed. Now they'll deal with the consequences. And the consequences could start a war." This voice was unfamiliar, male, with an accent similar to Isaac's. "Then we'll have a war." I opened my bedroom door slightly, peering down the hallway. Isaac stood in the living room with two other men. One I recognized as Dr. Colombo. The other was younger, maybe late 20s, with the same dark eyes and strong features as Isaac. A brother, maybe, or cousin. "Isaac, be reasonable," Dr. Colombo was saying. "You're in a vulnerable position right now, with Ivy and the baby." "Don't." Isaac's voice dropped dangerously low. "Don't use them as leverage or a reason for me to back down. If anything, they're exactly why I need to end this now. I won't have my family threatened." "What's going on?" I asked, stepping fully into the hallway. All three men turned to look at me. Dr. Colombo smiled warmly. The younger man's eyebrows rose with interest. Isaac's expression softened slightly, though tension still lined his shoulders. "Ivy," he said. "I thought you'd still be resting." I heard voices. I moved closer, my hand instinctively protecting my stomach. "What's this about threats?" Isaac and the other men exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them. "It's nothing for you to worry about," Isaac said. "If it involves me and the baby, I deserve to know." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Luca, Adrian, give us a moment." The two men left, though I caught the younger one, Luca, giving me an appraising look as he passed. Once we were alone, Isaac gestured to the sofa. "Sit, please." I sat, and he took the chair across from me, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "There's a family," he began. "The Castellanos. They've been trying to expand into territory my family controls. Last week, they made a move that crossed lines that shouldn't be crossed. I responded appropriately. Now they're escalating." "What does that have to do with me?" "They know about you now, about the baby, which means you're a target." The words sent fear spiraling through me. How did they find out? Someone at the hospital must have talked, or someone at the diner recognized you, put together that you were pregnant, remembered seeing you with me that night. He shook his head. "It doesn't matter how. What matters is that they know, and they'll try to use that knowledge." "To do what?" "To hurt me through you," he said bluntly. "That's why you're here, why Marco is outside, why you can't leave without security. I won't let them touch you, Ivy. I won't let anyone touch what's mine." There it was again, that possessive language that should have repelled me. "I want to make a deal with you," I said suddenly. His eyebrows rose. "What kind of deal?" "I'll stay here. I'll let you protect me and the baby. I'll follow whatever security protocols you think are necessary." I paused. "But I need honesty from you. Complete honesty. No more surprises." "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Your business, your enemies, your past." I took a breath. "Your ex-wife." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or anger. "Who told you about that?" he asked quietly. "Does it matter?" "Yes, because whoever told you is trying to manipulate you." "Then tell me the truth. Let me decide what to believe." Isaac was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I was married once," he said. "For 3 years. Her name was Gabriella. She was from another family, and our marriage was arranged to strengthen alliances. She knew what she was getting into, knew what my business was, accepted it." He paused. "Or so I thought. 2 years in, I discovered she was passing information to the FBI. She'd been an informant from the beginning, married me specifically to gather evidence. I felt my eyes widen. What happened to her? She's in witness protection somewhere. I let her go rather than handle it the way some in my family wanted. His voice was cold. I'm not a man who forgives betrayal easily, Ivy. But I'm also not a man who hurts women, no matter what they've done. So she got to live, and I got a very expensive divorce, and a deep distrust of anyone who gets too close. Until me, I said softly. Until you. His eyes met mine. You're the first person since Gabriella who I've let close. The first one who didn't want something from me, who didn't have an agenda. That night we met, you didn't know who I was. You just saw me. Do you understand how rare that is in my world? I did. I was beginning to understand a lot of things about Isaac Mancini. Okay, I said. Thank you for telling me. Is that it? No more questions? I have about 1,000 questions, but they can wait. I stood, suddenly exhausted again. Dr. Russo will be here soon, and I should probably get dressed. Isaac rose as well, moving closer. Not touching, but close enough that I felt the pull of him. Ivy, he said quietly. I know this isn't what you wanted. I know I'm controlling and possessive, and probably a dozen other things you find problematic. But I need you to understand something. What? I will keep you safe, both of you. Whatever it takes, whoever I have to eliminate, however many wars I have to fight. You are mine, and I protect what's mine with everything I have. This time when he said it, I didn't argue. Because standing there in his penthouse with his daughter moving inside me and danger lurking outside, I was beginning to think that maybe, just maybe, being his wasn't the worst thing that could happen to me. Dr. Russo's examination was thorough and surprisingly gentle. She set up in one of the spare bedrooms that had been converted into a temporary examination room, complete with an ultrasound machine that probably cost more than a luxury car. Your vitals are already improving, she said, making notes on her tablet. Blood pressure is up, though still lower than I'd like. How are you feeling? Better, I admitted. I slept for almost 12 hours. Good. Your body needed it. She applied gel to my stomach, preparing for the ultrasound. Let's take a look at this baby. Isaac stood beside me, his presence both comforting and overwhelming. When Dr. Russo turned on the ultrasound machine and our daughter's image appeared on the screen, I heard his sharp intake of breath. There she is, Dr. Russo said, a smile in her voice. Nice strong heartbeat, good growth measurements. She's perfect. I stared at the screen, watching my daughter move. I'd had ultrasounds before at the free clinic, but they'd been quick, functional, barely timed to see anything before the overworked technician had to move on to the next patient. This was different. Dr. Russo took her time, pointing out features, measuring everything carefully. Would you like to know the sex? She asked. We already know, Isaac said, his voice rough with emotion. She's a girl. She is indeed. Dr. Russo adjusted the wand. Have you thought about names? I glanced at Isaac. We hadn't discussed names, hadn't discussed anything about the actual baby beyond medical necessities and security concerns. Not yet, I said. After Dr. Russo left, promising to return in a week, Isaac and I sat in the living room with the ultrasound photos spread across the coffee table. He picked up one, studying it with an intensity that made my chest tight. She has your nose, he said. She's barely formed. You can't tell that from an ultrasound. I can. His thumb traced over the image. And she'll have your stubbornness too, I'm sure. Despite everything, I smiled. Probably. He set down the photo, his expression growing serious. Ivy, we need to talk about the future, about what happens when she's born. My smile faded. What do you mean? I mean logistics, where you'll live, what role I'll play, custody arrangements. I'm not giving you custody, I said immediately, defensive. I'm not asking you to, but I am her father. I have rights. Rights you didn't know you had until 3 days ago. And whose fault is that? The edge in his voice made me flinch. He saw it, and his expression softened. I'm sorry, that wasn't fair. But Ivy, we need to figure this out. I can't have my daughter growing up in uncertainty. I need to know she's safe, that she's provided for, that she's legitimate. Legitimate? My heir, he clarified. In my world, bloodlines matter. She needs to be recognized as a Mancini, protected by the family name. And how do we do that? He was quiet for a moment, and I had the sense he was choosing his words carefully. The traditional way would be marriage. The word hung in the air between us. You can't be serious, I said. Why not? We're having a child together. We're living together. We're strangers, I interrupted. We spent one night together 6 months ago, Isaac. That doesn't make us ready for marriage. My parents had an arranged marriage. They met twice before their wedding. They built a life together, had children, created a partnership that lasted 40 years until my father died. Love came later. I don't want an arranged marriage. What do you want? He challenged. To raise our daughter as a single mother. To have her known as my illegitimate child. To spend your life looking over your shoulder, wondering when my enemies will make a move. I stopped, frustrated. What did I want? A fairy tale? A romance where the dangerous mob boss fell in love with the struggling model and they lived happily ever after? That wasn't real life. I need time, I said finally. To think. To figure out what's best for our daughter. How much time? I don't know. Months, maybe. Until she's born, at least. Isaac's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Fine. We'll table the marriage discussion. For now. But Ivy, understand this. Whether we're married or not, you're mine. You and our daughter. That doesn't change. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor shifted. The careful control he'd maintained cracked, revealing something darker beneath. I need to take this, he said, already standing. Marco will be outside if you need anything. He disappeared into what I assumed was his office, leaving me alone with ultrasound photos and a head full of impossible questions. Over the next 2 weeks, I settled into a routine that felt surreal in its normalcy. I woke late, ate breakfast that appeared as if by magic, spent my days reading or watching the city from the windows. Dr. Russo visited twice a week. Isaac came and went, always busy with mysterious business, always finding time to ask how I was feeling. We existed in a strange limbo. Not quite a couple, not quite strangers. Connected by the baby growing inside me, but separated by everything else. Our different worlds, our lack of history, the fundamental power imbalance between us. It was Marco who gave me my first real glimpse into Isaac's world. I'd been in the penthouse for 10 days when I ventured into the kitchen late one night, unable to sleep. I found Marco there, drinking coffee and reading something on his phone. Ms. Mitchell, he said, standing immediately. Do you need something? I can wake Mr. Mancini. No, I interrupted. I just wanted some water. You don't need to disturb him. Marco nodded, relaxing slightly. He was in his 50s, I guessed, with graying hair and the kind of alert watchfulness that suggested military or police background. Can't sleep? He asked as I filled a glass from the tap. The baby's very active tonight. A smile crossed his face. My wife was the same way with our first. drove her crazy. You have children? 3. All grown now, thank God. 2 boys and a girl. I sat at the kitchen island, suddenly curious about this man who guarded my door every day. How long have you worked for Isaac? 20 years, since he was 14, and I was his father's driver. Marco's expression grew distant. Mr. Mancini, Isaac's father, he took me in when I had nothing, gave me a job, a purpose, a family. When he died, Isaac inherited everything, including me. He smiled slightly. Best inheritance he got, if you ask me. What was Isaac like? At 14? Serious. Too serious for a kid that age. He knew even then what was expected of him, what he'd have to become. Marco studied me. But you bring out something different in him, something I haven't seen since his mother died. What do you mean? Softness? Hope? He laughs more when you're around, talks about the future like it's something to look forward to rather than just survive. The words did something strange to my heart. Marco, I said carefully, the Castellanos, how serious is that threat? His expression shuddered. I can't discuss security matters, Ms. Mitchell. Please. I deserve to know what I'm living with. He was silent for a long moment. Then, serious enough that I sleep in the apartment now instead of going home to my own family. Serious enough that Mr. Mancini has 3 teams working around the clock to protect you. Serious enough that he's making moves he swore he'd never make. What kind of moves? The kind that start wars. Marco's voice was grim. The kind that make enemies of former allies, all to keep you and that baby safe. The weight of it settled over me. Isaac was upending his world, risking everything, for me and a daughter he'd only known about for 2 weeks. Why? I whispered. Because you're his, Marco said simply, and there's nothing a Mancini man won't do for what's his. The next morning I woke to find Isaac in my room, standing by the windows and watching the sunrise. He wore the same clothes as yesterday, his shirt wrinkled, his hair disheveled. He looked exhausted and dangerous, and heartbreakingly beautiful. How long have you been there? I asked, sitting up. Not long. He turned to face me. I needed to see you, to make sure you were real and safe. What happened? The Castellanos made their move last night. Tried to hit one of my businesses. His voice was cold. They failed. Badly. And now, they'll pay for it. I saw something in his eyes then. Something dark and violent that should have terrified me. Instead, I felt an unexpected surge of heat, of recognition that this was who he was. Not just the controlled businessman or the attentive father-to-be, but a man capable of ruthless action when threatened. Are you hurt? I asked. No. He moved toward the bed, sitting on the edge. But I killed a man last night, Ivy. Shot him myself when he tried to get information about you and the baby. I need you to understand what that means. Who I am. What I'm willing to do. He was giving me an out, I realized. A chance to be horrified, to run, to reconsider everything. Instead, I reached for his hand. I understand, I said quietly. You protect what's yours. Something shifted in his expression. Relief, maybe, or something deeper. I'm tired of fighting this, I admitted. Fighting us. You're right. I've been yours since that first night. And you're mine too, whether we want to admit it or not. Ivy. I'm not saying I'll marry you, I interrupted. Not yet. But I'm saying I'm done pretending this is temporary. Done pretending I can walk away when the baby's born. We're connected now. Permanently. We might as well figure out how to make it work. Isaac's hand tightened on mine. What changed your mind? Marco told me you're starting a war to protect us. And I realized no one has ever fought for me before. Not my parents, not my former friends, not anyone. But you? You're burning down your world to keep us safe. That means something. It means you're mine, he said, his voice rough. Always. Yours, I agreed. And this time, I meant it. He leaned forward, his forehead resting against mine. We stayed like that, breathing the same air, until the sun finished rising and a new day began. A day that would change everything in ways I couldn't yet imagine. The attack came 3 weeks later, when I was 8 months pregnant and moving like a ship in full sail. I'd spent the afternoon in the nursery Isaac had created in one of the spare bedrooms. Soft yellow walls, a white crib that probably cost more than a car, shelves already stocked with books and toys. He'd even had someone paint a mural, a garden scene with flowers and butterflies that made me tear up the first time I saw it. I was arranging baby clothes when I heard it. A crash from somewhere in the penthouse, followed by shouting. Male voices, angry and urgent. My first instinct was to run to Isaac, but Marco had drilled security protocols into me over the past weeks. If there was a threat, I was to lock myself in the safe room hidden behind a false wall in the master bedroom. I moved as quickly as my swollen body allowed, my heart hammering against my ribs. The safe room door was disguised as a bookshelf, activated by pulling out a specific book. My hands trembled as I found it, pulled, heard the click of the mechanism. The heavy door swung open just as I heard footsteps in the hallway. "Find her!" a voice shouted. Not Marco, not Isaac, someone else. I slipped inside the safe room and pulled the door shut, engaging the lock. The space was small, but equipped. Monitors showing security camera feeds, a phone connected to a direct line to Isaac's security team, water, first aid supplies, even a bathroom. On the monitors, I watched nightmare unfold. 3 men moved through the penthouse, strangers, armed, clearly searching. I saw Marco appear from the kitchen, his weapon drawn. Saw one of the intruders turn toward him. The sound of gunfire was muffled through the reinforced walls. But I saw Marco go down. A sob caught in my throat. Marco, who'd told me stories about his grandchildren, who'd brought me ice cream when I couldn't sleep, who'd become something like a friend. On another monitor, I saw Isaac enter through the front door with Luca and 2 other men. Saw him take in the scene, the destroyed living room, the bodies, Marco on the floor. Saw his expression shift into something terrifying and cold. What followed was brutal and efficient. Isaac moved through his home with deadly purpose, his men flanking him. I watched him kill 2 of the intruders without hesitation, watched Luca take down the 3rd. The whole thing lasted maybe 3 minutes. Then Isaac was moving through the penthouse, calling my name, his voice edged with panic I'd never heard before. "Ivy, where are you?" I grabbed the phone, dialing his cell with shaking hands. "I'm in the safe room," I said when he answered. "I'm okay. The baby's okay." The relief in his voice was palpable. "Stay there. Don't come out until I come for you." I stayed, watching the monitors as Isaac's men secured the penthouse, as paramedics arrived for Marco, who was alive, I realized with overwhelming relief, clutching his shoulder but alive. As police came and were quickly sent away with what I was beginning to understand was routine efficiency. It was an hour before Isaac opened the safe room door. He looked like he'd walked through hell. Blood on his shirt. Not his own, I didn't think. His hair disheveled, his eyes haunted. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, his hands immediately going to my face, my arms, my stomach, checking for injuries. "I'm fine. We're fine." My own hands found his face, needing to touch him, to confirm he was real and whole. "Isaac, what happened? Who were they?" "Castellanos. They hired outside contractors, tried to get to you while I was at a meeting downtown." His jaw clenched. "They wanted to take you. Use you and the baby as leverage." The reality of how close I'd come to being taken sent ice through my veins. but they failed. Because Marco was here. Because you followed protocol. He pulled me against him, as close as my pregnant belly allowed. But they won't stop, Ivy. This was their answer to my last move. They'll keep coming until one of us is destroyed. Then destroy them first, I said, surprising myself with the vehemence in my voice. Isaac pulled back to look at me, something like admiration in his eyes. You understand what that means? What I'll have to do? I understand you'll do whatever it takes to keep our daughter safe. That's all that matters. He kissed me then, hard and desperate, acclaiming that I returned with equal intensity. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. I need you to marry me, he said. Not eventually. Not someday. Now. Tomorrow. As soon as I can arrange it. Why now? Because if you're my wife, you're protected by every alliance I have. Because our daughter needs to be legitimate before she's born. Because I need everyone to know you're mine, that touching you means war with the entire Mancini family and every family we're allied with. And if I say no, then I'll respect your choice and protect you anyway. But Ivy... His hand came to rest on my stomach, where our daughter was kicking frantically, agitated by my elevated heart rate. I'm asking you to say yes. Not because I'm forcing you, but because you want this. Want us. Want the family we're building. I thought about everything that had led to this moment. The night we'd met. The connection that had been instant and overwhelming. The 6 months of struggling alone, too proud and too frightened to seek him out. The collapse that had brought us back together. The weeks of living in this strange limbo, learning who he really was beneath the dangerous exterior, and I realized something that should have terrified me, but instead felt like truth. I did want this. Wanted him. Wanted the life he was offering, despite its dangers and complications. Okay, I said. Yes, I'll marry you. The wedding happened 48 hours later in the penthouse, with only a handful of witnesses. Dr. Colombo served as best man. Dr. Russo was there, smiling knowingly. Luca stood guard at the door with 3 other security men, because even at his own wedding, Isaac wasn't taking chances. I wore a simple cream dress that accommodated my pregnant belly, and Isaac had somehow procured a ring, a stunning diamond that caught the light and scattered it like promises. The officiant was a judge who'd clearly done favors for the Mancini family before. The ceremony was quick and efficient, more contract than romance, but when Isaac slid the ring onto my finger and said mine instead of I do, I felt something settle into place. Yours, I agreed, meaning it completely. The kiss that sealed our vows was gentle, almost reverent. Isaac's hands cradling my face like I was something precious he was afraid of breaking. Mrs. Mancini, he murmured against my lips, and I felt the truth of it resonate through me. I was his wife now, his family, under the protection of a name that carried weight and fear in equal measure. That night, as I lay in what was now our bedroom, I'd finally moved into the master suite. Isaac's hand rested on my stomach, feeling our daughter's movements. Tell me about your ex-wife, I said suddenly. Isaac went still. Why? Because I need to know. Need to understand what happened so I don't make the same mistakes. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, Gabriella and I were strangers when we married. The alliance was more important than compatibility. I tried to make it work, to build something real, but she'd already chosen her path. She'd already decided to betray me. Do you ever think about her? Only as a lesson learned. She taught me that trust is earned, not given freely. That even family can betray you if the incentive is right. His hand tightened on my stomach. But you're different. You've had every reason to run, to turn me in, to use our daughter as leverage. And you haven't. You've chosen to stay. That means something. It means I'm yours, I said simply. And I'm yours, he replied. Completely. Yours and our daughter's. Whatever comes next, we face it together. 3 weeks later, I went into labor at 2 a.m. Isaac was impossibly calm, moving with efficient purpose as he called Dr. Russo, alerted the hospital, arranged for security. I was a mess, terrified and in pain, and suddenly overwhelmed by the reality that I was about to become someone's mother. I can't do this. I gasped between contractions as we rode to the hospital in Isaac's car, Luca driving while Marco, recovered from his injury, rode shotgun. You can, Isaac said firmly, his hand gripping mine. You're the strongest person I know, Ivy. You survived 6 months alone. You're surviving my world. You can do this. The birth was long and difficult. 16 hours of labor that left me exhausted and certain I couldn't push one more time. But then Dr. Russo was saying, "One more, Ivy. Just one more." And Isaac was whispering encouragement in my ear, and I was pushing with everything I had left. And then, crying. The most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. "It's a girl," Dr. Russo announced unnecessarily, placing my daughter on my chest. She was perfect. Dark hair like Isaac's, already curling slightly. Eyes squeezed shut against the light. Tiny fist waving, strong and healthy and absolutely perfect. "Hi, baby girl," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "Hi, sweetheart. I'm your mama." Isaac's hand came to rest on our daughter's back, impossibly gentle. When I looked up at him, I saw tears in his eyes too. "She's beautiful," he said, his voice rough, "just like her mother." "What should we name her?" I asked. We'd discussed names but never settled on one. Now, looking at her perfect face, one came to me. "Sophia," I said. "It means wisdom. I want her to be wise enough to choose her own path, to not make the mistakes we made." "Sophia Mancini," Isaac tested. Then he leaned down, pressing a kiss to our daughter's head. "Welcome to the world, little one. Your mother and I promise to protect you, to love you, to give you every opportunity. And anyone who tries to hurt you will answer to me." The possessiveness in his voice should have worried me. Instead, it felt like the deepest form of love. Over the next weeks, I learned what it meant to be a Mancini wife and mother. The constant security, even in our own home. The carefully vetted nannies and staff. The bulletproof car seats and safe rooms and security protocols for every possible scenario. But I also learned what it meant to have a partner who was completely devoted to our family. Isaac changed diapers at 3 a.m. He paced the nursery when Sophia wouldn't settle. He looked at our daughter like she'd hung the moon and stars specifically for him. And he looked at me the same way. "I never knew I could be this happy," he admitted one night as we watched Sophia sleep in her crib. "Never thought I deserved it." "We both deserve it," I said, leaning into his warmth. "We both fought hard enough for it." "No more fighting," he promised, his arm coming around my waist. "The Castellanos have backed down. Word has spread about what happened to the men they sent. No one wants to risk war with a man protecting his family. So we're safe? As safe as we can be in my world. Which means constant vigilance, but also..." He turned me to face him. "A future. A real one. For us and Sophia, and maybe someday siblings for her." "Siblings?" I raised an eyebrow. "Eventually." His smile was slow and wicked. "When you're ready. No pressure." I laughed, the sound surprising me with its genuine joy. 6 months ago, I'd been alone and terrified, struggling just to survive. Now I had a husband who would burn the world down for me, a daughter who was perfect in every way, and a future that stretched bright and certain before us. It wasn't the life I'd planned, wasn't the fairy tale I'd imagined. It was better, because it was real. built on honesty and need, and the fierce devotion of a man who'd claimed me as his, and meant it with every fiber of his being. "I love you," I said, the words coming easily now. "I know I didn't say it before, but I do. I love you, Isaac Mancini." His smile transformed his face. "I love you too, Ivy Mancini. My wife, my family, mine." "Yours," I agreed, "always." And as we stood there in our daughter's nursery with our whole future ahead of us, I knew it was true. I was his, he was mine, and together we were unbreakable.